Welcome back to Capitol Journal. Joining me next is State Representative Danny Garrett, Chairman of the House Education Budget Committee. Representative, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Always good to be with you.
Good to see you. We have great news on reading scores from all across the state, top to bottom. Looks like it's really great news. Is this a testament of what y'all have been trying to do in terms of literacy and funding the Literacy Act and everything throughout the state of Alabama?
Yes, it's definitely an indication that we're on the right trajectory. Nothing negative about the numbers. When you you look at the numbers, look at the layers of the numbers, the top category, the bottom category. We see movement within the categories, and then movement at the overall proficiency rates. It's slow. That's the problem. Things like this take time, and so I think it's a testament to the investment we've made, to the work of our public educators in doing this, to the literacy task force, to the students. But we still have a long way to go to get to the proficiency we want to be in. But we're definitely on the right trajectory. And of course, post-pandemic, we were one of 2 states that showed improvement at a national level. So it's good news, but I don't want people to realize that we're done. We've got a long way to go.
Well, because we saw right next door the Mississippi Miracle, right, and all that they did. And we kind of copied a little bit of their literacy policies and things like that. But we did have that pandemic right in the middle of it. But talk about the process. This wasn't easy. This wasn't easy in terms of pushing the department, pushing the board. Y'all had to step in as a legislature and do that. Talk about the process that went into that in terms of saying, hey, we've got to make some moves here and to get our kids going in the right direction.
Well, I think change is difficult for a lot of people. Change is difficult certainly for governments to do. But clearly where we were in the education rankings, we really needed to embrace change. And we looked at what was working in other states. And anytime you try to make change, you're going to hit the wall. And we did. But the legislature did push through that. The leadership, the governor stepped out there and said, I want Alabama to be in the top 30, not number 52, which is almost impossible, but we were number 52 in math. And so it took a collaborative effort, but Dr. Mackey, his team embraced this. We all realized the world is changing and people have got to open their minds to change. And so if we're going to get better. And so it was difficult to do it. We had to find the funding. We had to direct the funding. And we'd already been doing some things behind the scenes. When you look at the math area, we had the TEAMS program, which was very successful. We had overfunded TEAMS. And so we were able to use some of that money to begin the Numeracy Act. And so numeracy has done for math what we're seeing, what literacy did for reading. And math is, again, on a positive trajectory, but still a ways to go.
And so you're a financial guy, right? So I like thinking about that. You can see problems and say, okay, well, this is where the money goes and all that kind of thing. Well, let's switch gears. Talk about the CHOOSE Act. It's going into effect right now.
Right.
Parents are, when I say the CHOOSE Act, this is the education savings accounts. Parents now can say, $7,000 put towards a school of their choice, right? It's going into effect right now in terms of parents are now, lining up those private schools, home schools, other public schools. Incredible demand. Did this surprise you in terms of how much demand out there that there is?
It did and it didn't. So let me just say this, that in the world we live in today, everything's about customization, flexibility, and choice in all areas of our life. It's not surprising that would also be, we'd be seeing those same themes emerge in the education community. Education community, again, has been resistant to changing like that. But that's inevitable, and so this opens that door. And yeah, when we initially did the program, we looked at Utah as our model, and we did a little bit more than what Utah did, but kind of took that as our base, as what we began the program with. We thought we would have about 15,000 students involved. Well, we had 37,000 applications, and
Wow.
24,000 students actually qualified. And Chairman Orr and I, when we saw the fact that we had more demand than we had appropriated, we had two choices. One was, well, we've appropriated $100 million and first come, first serve, and that's it. Or we could say, you know what, let's meet the demand for everybody who wants to take advantage of this, because we're committed to this concept. And if the market is driving that and demanding that, and these are the taxpayers, and these are taxpayer dollars that right now are not going to some of their children's education, or maybe a child is in a school that needs to be in a better environment. And when you look at the numbers with this, we saw about additional 4,000 people leave the public schools and go to private school. And these were, again, all under the 300% of poverty level income cap.
Right, because that income thing is still.
So the people out there now saying that, well, this is just proof that this is going to fuel affluent families. That's not what happened. That's not who's benefiting this program from the get-go for the first 2 years. Then after that, of course, it becomes universal in terms of who can apply. But we're still going to be looking at this area of need. But yeah, we had about 3,000 to 4,000 students that left the public schools to go to private schools. We had about 1,300 students that said, I'm going from one public school to another public school for a variety of reasons. Could be academic reasons, could be for social reasons, bullying, who knows, but it was a better environment based on that parent's choice. And then we had, of course, an additional a number of students who went into the homeschool. People moved from private school and from public school
so those
into
resources
homeschool.
are there.
Yeah, those resources. So basically, it's giving the families the flexibility, just like they do in every other aspect of their life, to deal with education. And I get a little bit frustrated when I hear some of the education community push back and say, well, this didn't really, the person who was in the private school stayed in private school, this just helps them financially.
Well, yeah, address that, because I hear that too.
Absolutely. That's the point. That private school, you have two working parents out there right now scrimping and saving to put their child in maybe a Christian school, a private school. And it takes every dollar they've got. And by the way, all their tax money is going to public schools. So what this does is give them some relief and say, yeah, some of that money will, be directed to where your child is going. That's the world we're in right now. So I think that's doesn't bother me at all. I think that we're going to continue to see school choice evolve. It's going to grow. The market will take it where it goes, and we'll see. And then we'll have, of course, the legislature appropriate the funds. But all in all, it was surprising on one hand, not so surprising if you think about the culture we're in. Because, and I was thinking too, I realized just this week, summer's almost over for students. A lot of schools start back the first week in August. And we have this model right now that says we have to go 180 days, you have to begin on this day, you can't end before this date. I just think, I had a bill a few years ago that tried to open the door so that systems would have flexibility to do different type of models. So it may make sense in some districts to go year round, or to go 4 days a week, or go different, But you've got, kindergarten students now going to school, 5-year-olds going to school, who basically say you can only miss 5 days this year. Well, I mean, that is just, to me, kind of an archaic model. So I think that this is part of the change that needs to happen. And does it make sense that school ended in May, now we're going to start August the 7th, and we got to go 180 days and everywhere in the state? That's not the world we're in today. And I believe that if we're going to be competitive and want to see our children do better, we have to be embracing some of these changes. So I'm excited about the school choice now. With school choice, we didn't neglect public schools at all, because we also passed the RAISE Act.
Right, I wanted to ask you about that, but let's stay on school choice for a minute, because in its origin, the whole school choice movement was really about improving public education, right? All of it, really, with charter schools and everything, saying like, look, we've got to give kids an option, we've got to give families an option, and when that happens, when people see the difference that charter schools make, or whatever it is, that will drive the public schools to improve. Do you think that can still happen with everything that's going on? Do you think that, I'm thinking about my hometown of Prattville and everything that's going on up there, like, can the school choice movement drive public education in the right direction in terms of saying, hey, this is the way, y'all need to figure it out.
It already is doing that. And I'll tell you just an example. I don't think I'm betraying any confidences, but Dr. Walter Gonsolin, who's the superintendent for Jefferson County, was just named the National Superintendent of the Year, first one ever from Alabama. He began, once we started talking about school choice, he talked to me, because I have Jefferson County schools in my district, and he said, look, you do what you got to do on that, but within the public schools in Jefferson County, we're going to develop school choice. And so he actually has done a couple of pilot programs where he's got feeder elementary schools within that feed to one high school, and letting them choose based on different themes the way they teach in those elementary schools. And he's providing the transportation for that choice. I spoke to him last week, and he and the superintendent for the City of Birmingham schools are working together on another program that would be targeting one of the big needs there, which is the kids that have some discipline issues, and how to better address that on a cooperative basis. And we're seeing also in Jefferson County, he's setting up academies at the different high schools so that within the day, students can move from one school to another, but stay in their home-based school. My point is, it's out-of-the-box thinking, it's innovative, and it's all focused on improving student outcomes. And it's already happening. And I'll just give you Jefferson County as one example. It's happening all over the state. So I'm excited about that. That's the way we're going to see improvement.
Yeah. Well, you brought up the RAISE Act. Talk about that. What's been the feedback in terms of, because you're talking about the funding model for the state, but it goes into effect, I guess, this coming fiscal year.
Right. Yeah, it's in the budget. So what happened is we're one of 4 states that did not fund education based on student needs. We had an old archaic resource-based funding, which basically is that
head count, right?
Head count, and regardless of needs or whatever. And also the roots of it had to do with a lawsuit filed back in the 90s, and it was really not an education model, an intentional education funding model. That's the foundation program. So what we did was shift to we had a joint committee with the Senate and House budget committees, and we worked for a year to determine, do we want to just keep what we're doing? Do we want to just gut the foundation program and start from scratch? Or do we want to take the foundation program and on top of that build to some hybrid program? And that's what we decided to do. So we, because of our budgeting and the reserves we had in place, we were able to pull additional money to put on top of the foundation program that will go to school district based upon student needs. And the needs that we're funding would be poverty, special needs, English as a second language, and gifted. All of those require additional money to fund, and right now the state's providing minimal funding for those, and that's having to come out of local funds. And when you have districts that don't have that local funding, they're getting hurt. So what we did was to put $166 million on top of the foundation program that will be going to schools, not based on head count, but based on those needs of the number of students they have with those specific needs. There's very strict accountability provisions that would make sure the money goes there, that it's driving achieving the results we want it to achieve. We also, as a commitment, pulled down 3 years worth of anticipated funding for that and put that into the account. So the next 3 years, we're showing an increasing growth in that funding on top of the foundation program, which will also grow. Now that money is going to districts, not to schools, which gives the district the flexibility to how to need to address the student need within my district. For example, if you have a district that has a lot of ELL, but they have a high concentration in this school, low in this school, rather than have 3 separate programs, maybe you do all in one, this gives you the flexibility to do all in one location. But the point is, we're giving the district the ability to address those student needs that they have. And that is significant. This could be truly transformative. You picked up on this, I think. Some people haven't, but this could be one of the most significant pieces of legislation we've ever passed.
I agree. I can't talk about it enough in terms of, y'all do a lot. Well, the reason nobody talks about it is because it wasn't controversial. I expected it to take, 2 or 3 years to actually get across the finish line.
Yeah, we thought it would take 2 or 3 years. And of course, if we had basically gone in there and started messing with the foundation program, we would have had that. But we didn't do it. We said, look, we're going to let you have the foundation program, so you're going to get everything you would have gotten anyway. Nobody's losing in that. Everybody's going to gain because every system has those needs that I just mentioned, some to a different degree. But it was significant. We got it done in 1 year, and it passed unanimously out of both bodies.
What has been the feedback at the local level from superintendents, school boards, things like that?
I think they're trying to wrap their arms around it, trying to understand the ground rules, and that's the implementation.
They've got to implement it now.
It's generally positive, but they're trying to figure out what their parameters are. And I think once they realize that the districts have more control, that might help us drive further efficiencies with school systems beyond the RAISE Act.
Right.
So again. So I want to go back. When you look at what we've done as a legislature, we've not abandoned public schools. We're empowering the public schools. We're changing the way we approach public schools. We've addressed teacher pay. We've addressed the Literacy Act, Numeracy Act. Now we have the RAISE Act funding. We're also responding to those who say, you know what, I need a different situation. I don't want to put my child in that box. And people forget too, when a child leaves the public school system, the money follows that child, but also we don't have the resources there to educate that child in the public school system because that's being done elsewhere.
Right, because of the foundation program. Mr. Chairman, we're out of time, but thanks so much for coming on, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.